Hi everyone, Ray from Pro String, back at it once again at it again. So it's been a while. I've made a stringing tutorial. They do take up time, energy, and I did within less than a month. I think I did over 100 videos, squash, tennis, and badminton. I'm gonna jump back on the wagon and try to carry on growing this YouTube channel and giving you guys as much information as possible. So here we go. Today's racket is as many of you may recognize already, it is a Rafa Origin, a pure, so Babolat Pure Rafa Origin. This is the heavier version, the 317 grams, if I'm not mistaken. You should see it here, unstrung, 317 indeed, 317 grams, the pure Rafa Origin. Maybe the last racket that we would have seen launched by Rafa, at least. Now obviously Alcaraz has taken the reins. But anyway, interesting setup because a client is changing to the Pro String Pentagon. Again, our own brand. However, they have a little bit of RPM blast left in a 120 gauge, which is not lasting them very long at all, which is a couple hours, according to them. It's actually a buddy of mine, so it's true. He's breaking it pretty quick, which is normal if you play at a decent level. So above club level, let's say, advanced, slightly competitive level, you will break RPM blast 120 very quickly. Very thin string. Just FYI, the thinner the string, the more spin power it normally provides. So we're going to use Pro String Pentagon 125 on the mains or the vertical strings, and then we're going to mix it with 120 RPM blast on the crosses. He was experiencing some very uncomfortable tennis elbow, golfer's elbow actually, and changed to Pro String Pentagon, and it has gone away, but we don't know if it's because of the string or because of the change of racket. He was on the Pure Arrows before, and now he is on the so the old Pure Arrows, the very old Pure Arrows, the 10-year-old ones, Pure Arrows, and now he has changed this one, which is 17 grams heavier. He's very much in shape, so I don't think the 17 grams would make too much of a difference, but it just shows you could be as strong as you want and as in shape as you want. But if a racket just doesn't agree with you, it just doesn't agree with you. And you can try all kinds of things, changing the poly to a multi-filament or a natural gut or synthetic gut or something of that sort to try to soften up things for your elbow or arm. And even then, sometimes it just might not work. You know, different rackets, different frames, different sturdiness. Some rackets are more flexible, less flexible, and that can really have an impact on your arm. But normally it is due to strings or too tight, or you know, just sometimes it could just be something as simple as using a shock absorber or a dampener. And that can change everything. But anyway, back to the racket we are about to do. We are going to start from the top, guys. As you would have seen just a moment ago, we start from the top and we pull our first string down through the first loop. And then back up. And what we're going to do is count our strings to each side. Give myself some extra string here. So we've got one main on each side. Now it's a 16 by 19 stringing pattern. Therefore, we need 7 more to each side. And then you'll see what we do now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I do recommend, if you're just starting out and have just seen how I counted the strings, I obviously try not to waste much string, which normally does work out that way. Just out of experience. Okay, this client is early. He said 2:30 he was going to drop his rackets off, but look, this is how we're going to grab the two ends. You gotta love it when people tell you one thing and then they show up at another time. There's me thinking I've got time for this video, but welcome to my life. Nothing is ever that simple, so bear with me. Actually, let's cut this out and then edit it afterwards. Okay, here we go. So when we start from the top, our first loop is on the bottom, back up. So you have no choice but to clamp on the bottom. So approach string pentagon 125 millimeters on the mains. There you go. Pull your first string. You should always have, if you put the racket correctly on the machine, remember there should be some jiggling space. The racket should have a little bit of movement, not too much, but not too little either. You have a little gap here. I don't know if you guys can see that. But between the frame, there's probably 1 or 2 mil, which that's the way it should be, because the racket needs that little bit of space to go back into its kind of natural strung shape. So the racket, obviously, when you cut the strings, the tension releases and the racket kind of goes upwards. And then once you string it, it always goes back down a little bit, let's say. So always leave that couple of mil there for the racket to have that breathing space. If you ever receive a racket back from a stringer and it looks elongated, let's say elongated, I don't know if that's the right word, but if it looks, the head looks longer than normal, and that's because they have done a very poor job and pretty much deformed your racket. So as you've seen, 3 strings to one side, 3 strings to one side, and we're going to obviously do, or maybe not so obvious to some of you, but 3 to the other side, and so on and so on. It's going to be exactly the same on each side. Also, just wanted to mention we've started a new partnership with a clothing company called Pallacorda, Pallacorda. So just a shout out to them. Thank you for the great quality clothing and believing in us. And we will be selling them on our website in the next few weeks. We should have most of the other items on our website too. And we'll be using them for some cool prizes and giveaways once we get the ball rolling with our tennis, squash and badminton leagues, ladders and tournaments. It's a new part of Pro String which we are just starting to grow. Some interesting, exciting stuff. I feel like the lighting in here, I need to buy some new lights. I've been stringing like this a couple weeks, but didn't realize when the day is dark like it is today in London, UK, Acton to be precise, West London. So there you go, guys. Another 3 to that side, which makes 6. I still have 3 on this side. 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to do 3 more to get up to 6. So always compensating the tension to each side of the racket. Never, 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 never. I say this, but I know a lot of you might still do it. String all the mains on one side and then the other. It's very bad for the racket, and you're asking for trouble. You will deform the racket's original shape and possibly even break it. So your choice, guys. But there you go. You've got the information there. I heavily advise to take it. So no skipping any holes. No shared holes, no shared grommets on this racket. So, and top and bottom are the same. So I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No skipping holes, no skipping holes. This racket is strung, so the stringing pattern is slightly more open than other pure arrows that have been around. So they've changed the spacing between the strings, in other words. Don't forget to up your tension, guys. Up your tension 10 to 15%. So I'm stringing this racket at 53 pounds, 53 lbs of tension, and I have my machine set at 15%. Wilson Baiardo machine set at 15% for all my finishing knots. The last string that you pull before tying off your knot. In this case, Parnell knot. So I will try to slow it down if I don't forget. These days I have a memory of a fish. They say 3 second memory. But anyway, so again, as you can see, our 7th hole, no skipping or anything like that. We skip just the one at the top and the bottom. In a moment, as you can see, I'll be skipping that one and the same at the bottom. Up my tension. So I've gone from 53 to 60.9. That's 15% extra. It may seem high to you guys, but it's completely normal. The racket can take it. As long as it's not an aluminum frame, if it's a good graphite racket, do not worry about it. So, as you've seen, that first simple single knot, don't tighten it all the way, down, around, and through my original one. Now, I'm going to pull the string that's nearest to me, this one here. Pull it up. Don't pull too tight. Break the string. And there you have it. The mains are complete. 53. And now we're going to leave the tension exactly the same. 53 for both sides. I'm going to grab the reel of RPM Blast, which is my least favorite polyester string in the world. But it's a very good seller because of Nadal Alcaraz. 3, 4. Let me just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5. 7.5 lengths of the full racket. I don't know, maybe you didn't see the full racket, but when I say the full racket, top of the racket to the bottom of the handle. This racket, you could probably get away with starting from either side, but the grommets have been made. It has the FSI spin grommets, so actually it's pretty straightforward on this one. You should be able to start from any side. I always double check these Babolat FSI ones because it's never completely 100% clear where you need to start or if it's right or wrong, starting or not starting from one side or the other. Some previous ones are very clear that you have to. It even indicates with the small little circle where you need to do your starting knot. So starting knots and finishing knots, I always use the Parnell knot regardless. Very nice knot, aesthetically perfect. Actually invented by a good friend of mine, Richard Parnell, which I know he stumbles across many of my videos. Sometimes gives me some tips, sometimes he doesn't, which is probably good. No news is good news, they say sometimes. But anyway, nonetheless, Parnell knot, starting and finishing, guys. Probably the most used knot, I would say, on the tennis tour, so the professional tour. Holds very well, looks good, as long as you cut that knot nice and short, as I do. Not too short, but short enough to, you know, there's nothing worse than getting a racket back when they leave you, when they're leaving like a knot that long, where it's almost surpassing the actual frame. It's just awful. It catches the net, it catches on your clothing, it catches your finger. It drives me crazy. It really, really does. All right, 53 pounds. You could just pull, yeah, don't worry about that. Don't really need to pull the knot, as you would have seen a second ago. Make sure this camera is rolling and the view is okay. Let me know if you guys think this view is okay. I think this is how I used to set up the camera, if my memory doesn't fail me. 2:24 p.m. London, UK. So just a reminder, guys, we are stringing one ahead, or also you could say one in front. So you can see I've already had one, I pulled through another. Now I'm going to pull that. It just makes the threading or the weaving much easier. If you're just weaving one, pulling one, weaving one, pulling one, it makes things much more difficult. I always cut them up after a few. Just makes the weave much easier when you string one ahead or one in front, yeah? When you pull your string, so you can make sure you use your left hand. Don't let the string go down. Make sure you push it up nicely. You want nice, straight strings, or at least as straight as possible when you complete your stringing job. If you have what I call the Mexican wave, you're going, when you finish your racket, if you're a half-decent stringer or someone that cares, you will always straighten your strings afterwards. The problem with straightening strings, which is always going to have to be some aspect of straightening, always a little bit. What happens is, the more you have to straighten the strings, your cross strings, the more tension it loses, believe it or not. So the racket actually loses tension once you start moving around a lot after you finish your stringing job. Guys, the knot, you can see nice and short. I'm a big fan of that knot being short and not long. Something that drives me crazy when I see other work from other stringers that bring their rackets in for me and I see this long knots. That tells you straight away it's normally a self-taught home learner don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. I said there's nothing wrong with that. I'm gonna make, I want to make an example, but if he sees this video, he's gonna know who he is. But I love him to bits, so I'm gonna mention it. He's one of those guys that's a bit of a tennis nerd. Yeah. So I was stringing his racket for a year or 2 years, and then he caught on to my videos, funny enough, and bought himself a Wise stringer or Wise something stringer. I can't remember the name exactly. You know, some of you might know which one I'm talking about, which can be added to a manual machine, I believe, as well. But anyway, long story short, he's always been stringing with me. He does break strings frequently, hits a good ball for sure, advanced level, but his stringing is not advanced. He was telling me, again, without offending anybody, yeah, he used to string at 53 pounds with me, or 52. I felt one of his rackets the other day. We actually did a sparring lesson, more of a sparring lesson. When you get to a certain level, there's not so much that needs to be said, but you need someone that can put you in awkward situations constantly. So literally, you just want someone to kick your ass or make you work hard at a high level. So he gave me his rackets. I was like, dude, what are you stringing at? He's like 49, 50 or something. I think he dropped significantly. But his rackets were probably not even at 40 pounds. I know it's really hard to believe for some of you home stringers. But yeah, it is true. I had this with the owner of this racket. He strung his rackets at David Lloyd's Rain Park. I actually broke strings. Oh no, I didn't break strings. I wanted to try the racket out. I had never tried out the Rafa Origin. And the first 4 hands I hit, I think they were, I almost hit the fence. I kid you not. Because the racket's already head heavy. And then the strings, he asked for 55 of tension, which he's now stringing at 53 of tension with me. And his 50, he said it was too tight. But his 55 that he was used to, we put the ERT 300 on it, and guess what the tension was? 44. And that was only after a week of having the racket restrung. A week after having the racket restrung, and then I'm losing my words here. And then we put the ERT, so he strung it a week ago and then used it maybe twice, 2 hours or 3 hours of play at the very most. And that's with 120. It was all RPM 120. And we put the ERT 300 and it showed us 44 pounds of tension. Because he's a good friend of mine, he has used Pro String Nemesis in the past. And then he said he preferred the Pro String, the RPM Blast. And now he loves the Pro String Pentagon. So he's a bit of a change his minder. But now he has settled for a real Pro String Pentagon, which is great. One more person on board. Also, yeah, he couldn't believe it. He thought I was trying to just convince him to buy my string. My margins are not very high on my string, so I couldn't care less. I literally, my philosophy is good string for a good price. Why pay more? So I showed him the RT and he could not believe his eyes. He couldn't believe it. He's like, this is not possible. I asked for 55. I said, go complain if you want. I just think, I don't think he's going to bother with the complaint. And he's just going to always string with me now, which is, I mean, he gets a big discount. So, I mean, I'm adding more workload to my life. But it's okay. There's a few guys out there that I really have time for. And we train together. Well, I kick his ass every time. But I don't have that many options during the day. There's not that many people that are out of the house being able to play tennis during the day. That's when I can play. If I don't have too many rackets, that is. But anyway, I feel like I'm rambling on here. We're almost done, guys. As you can see, stringing one ahead all the way through. Again, guys, keep pulling that string. Don't be afraid to pull. Even if you pull too much, it's still going to set nicely. So, bosh. I do apologize if I ramble on sometimes about random things. But it's interesting. It's a very interesting little story there that I told, I think. So you could have the best machine in the world. You could be in a super like posh or high-end tennis club. And there you go. You ask for 55 pounds of tension and you're barely getting 45, 46. which I think is shocking. Absolutely shocking. That should not be happening. I remember a few tournaments that I played back in the day where, you know, you're getting a racket strung at a professional tournament. Well, maybe like a Futures where I don't think they're obliged. Maybe they are now, but it never used to be that way. You'd have a random kid stringing, or I played some championships of under Lucia as a junior, for example, and the things that you see are just, after a few experiences, that was it. I was like, I can't do this. No one touches my rackets ever again. And that's how it was from the age of 14, 15. And then these beautiful machines called Pro Stringer. Yes, boss, you know who you are. You know who you are. Who I worked very close with for a very long time. I've probably sold a couple hundred machines myself. Still sell them. Pro Stringer is the world's smallest electronic portable stringing machine, which I'm sure you find online easily. If you want a little discount, reach out. Let me know, and I will get you that discount and help you out with anything you might need as well with them. But anyway, long story short, I don't let anyone touch my rackets because after a few bad experiences I had, it's quite appalling. And the worst thing about it is you tell people, oh, you didn't do a very good job. What do you mean? I've been stringing for years. Nobody ever said. Well, you just don't have a clue. And some people are very proud, and instead of listening and hearing other better stringers potentially, they don't want to listen. But hey, that's a great way to push away business, which then comes to me, which I'm happy with. So no worries either way. I don't want to sound like a prick or someone, you know, big-headed. I already have enough work as it is, again, without being big-headed. But yes, a lot of people do lousy stringing jobs, and people can't figure out sometimes, why can I not control the ball? Why is my game gone so shit? And it could just simply be because of the last person who strung your racket. So there you have it, guys. Pro String Pure Rafa Origin. May Rafa's career rest in peace. Wow, what a career that man had. Just the way we like it, guys. Going to straighten my strings up. Normally, not much to do. Experience has taught me how to keep those strings nice and straight. As I showed you, use that left hand to push those strings up. And there you have it. My string looks in its original shape, nice and round, not elongated or elongated. There you guys go. Amazing. It's actually nice to make another video. I hope this was useful to many of you. Even if it's just one of you, then I'm also happy that helps. Anyway, guys, take care. Have yourself a great rest of the day, wherever you may be. And much love, guys. Take care. Pro String. Let's go. Bye-bye.